need you to do is I'm gonna send you the link, okay? And I'm gonna go
You're
live.
breaking up again. Okay, you good?
Hold on. So I'm gonna send you the link.
What's happening, y'all?
Oh yeah, I forgot we were live. Hey, what's going on, guys? Alright.
Oh, shit, reveal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Today what we're gonna do, or tonight, what we're gonna do is we're going to go ahead and create a Django app. Me and Ebi. Ebi and I are going to be creating, going through the Django documentation. And you are going to watch if you want. Alright, so I'm gonna go and send you the link now.
What's up?
Oh, Ebi, let's go to chopping it up in W3 Develops, and I'll share my screen there. And I'll send you the link. I'm gonna move the voice text up here.
Sure.
I'm gonna send it to you.
Discord or?
Discord.
Oh, yeah.
You should have seen voice text like move.
Nope.
You don't see it right above the chopping it up channel.
Oh, okay, let me. Okay, let's see. Oh, look at that. Voice text. Hey. There you go. Fantastic.
Alright, so
that's the link
this
to the
is going to be able.
documentation.
Yeah, so scroll down to page 7. We'll start on just reviewing everything. And so basically this is like, these are the first steps. These are like the links. It tells you like what's going on, like overview, installation, how to install it. If you need help, you have the FAQ. I think they have like a forum as well.
Okay.
Yep, so there's tutorials, there's topic guides, reference guides, and how-to guides. Those are like other chapters within this documentation. So basically the first part is, this is a model view template type of system here that that goes on, right? So as it mentions, Django provides an abstract layer, the models for structuring and manipulating the data for your web app. And these are like later on, all these links are like later on in the documentation. So that's the model layer, that's like the abstract layer. Then the view layer, it has like Django has the concept of views to encapsulate the logic responsible for processing a user's request and for returning the response. So it's basically like, so if we need to know more, we can follow these links, but basically it like returns like the view layers. And then we have the template layers. It provides like it says it provides designer friendly syntax for rendering the information to be presented to the user. So we can learn more about that later as well. Now also it has forms, so Django provides a rich framework to facilitate the creation of forms and the manipulation of form data.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's some key terms here, like in the settings. They're not key terms. You can learn more about the development process, the admin. So we're gonna get to all that very soon. Let's scroll down here to go to chapter 2.
Nice. But that was fast.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's just saying it was developed in a fast-paced environment and is made to make tasks easy.
Flask-based environment?
No, fast. It was made in a...
Fast.
So it says because Django was developed in a fast-paced newsroom environment, it was designed to make common web development tasks fast and easy. So here's like an informal overview of how to write a database-driven web app with Django. The goal of this document is to give you enough technical specifics to understand how Django works. It says, but this isn't intended to be a tutorial or reference, but they have both. So when we're ready to start a project, we can start the tutorial or dive right into the documentation. So we're gonna get to the tutorial very shortly here. Very shortly. First, we just have to make sure we get everything set up and installed correctly, and then we'll be ready for that. Alright, so design your model. Although you can use Django without a database, it comes with an object relational mapper in which you describe your database layout in Python code. Okay, so the data model syntax offers many rich ways of representing your model so far. So like from Django.tb, we import models. We have a class reporter. Okay. Okay, are you seeing this? Okay. Yeah, we don't have to do these right now. This is just something that it, so it says next, run the Django command line utilities to create the database tables. Yeah, so when we're making like databases, like we'll need to note that. I'm taking a note on this, and we'll get to that later when we actually start creating the app. But the make migrations command tools looks at all of your available models and creates migrations for whatever tables don't already exist. And migrate command runs the migrations and creates tables in your database. So that is, yeah, so that's the command line. Okay. Okay, so with that, basically we created a free API.
Where would they have us host it? Too soon?
Yeah, so I actually I plan on hosting like either like just like you can test and host on Heroku, and then you can use like AWS, Linux, DigitalOcean. Yeah, so it's also got a dynamic admin interface. So yeah, it's saying like once our model once our models are defined, Django can automatically create a professional, production-ready administrative interface. It's like a website that lets authenticated users add, change, and delete objects. The only step required is to register your model in the admin site, which we'll get to that later.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, actually, so yeah, this is like how to do that though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and this is so that you don't have to deal with creating backend interfaces only to manage content. It says one typical workflow is creating creating Django apps is to create models and get the admin sites up and running as fast as possible. So, the staff or clients can start populating data, then develop
Mm-hmm.
the way data is presented to the public. Let me see something really quickly here. Okay. So design our URLs. A clean, elegant URL scheme is important detail in a high-quality web application. So it says Django encourages beautiful URL design and doesn't put any cruft in URLs like .php or .asp. So to design URLs in an app, you create Python module, a Python module called URL a table of contents for your app. It contains a mapping between URL patterns and Python callback functions. URL cons also serve to decouple URLs from Python code. Here's what a URL conf might look like for the reported article example above. So like from Django.urls, import path, from dot, and import views. And we have URL patterns, and then there we have path and articles. Then the year, like an integer for the year. And we have views dot year underscore archive. Okay, and you'll notice that. So it says the code above maps URL paths to the Python callback functions views. The path strings use parameter tags to capture values from the URLs. When a user requests a page, Django runs through each path in order and stops at the first one that matches the requested URL. If none of them matches, Django calls a special case 404 view. This is blazingly fast because the paths are compiled into regular expressions at load time. Once one of the URL patterns matches, Django calls the given view, which is a Python function. Each view gets passed a request object, which contains request metadata and the values captured in the pattern. Okay, so each view gets passed a request object. That's good. And that contains request metadata. Nice. So it says, for example, if a user requested the URL articles and then 2000 /2005 /05 /3923223. Alright, Django would call the function news.views article dot article underscore detail request year 2005 month 5 and PK 39323. Okay, right, because that's the URL, right, pattern that it matches. Articles, year, where's that, with month, and PK. And so again, I know you're using Mac, so you're using like Unix, command line Mac. We have the commands here for both Windows and Linux. So let's see, write your views, each view. Alright, so what was that? I was designing URLs. Each view is responsible for doing like one of two things. Returning an HTTP response object containing the content for the requested page, or raising an exception as HTTP 404, and the rest is up to us. So generally, a view retrieves data according to the parameters, loads a template and renders the template with the retrieved data. So it says here's an example for year underscore archive from above. Let's see here. Bear with me one, let me just plug in. There we are. Okay. So it says generally a view retrieves data according to the parameters. Okay. Loads a template and renders the template with the retrieved data. So it loads and renders with the retrieved data. Cool. So those were views. So it seems like views just kind of like deals with like the URLs and stuff, like making sure that it goes to the right URL address. Now our templates, the code above loads the news /year underscore archive.html template. Alright, so Django has a template search path which allows you to minimize redundancy among templates. In your Django settings, you specify a list of directories to check for templates with the dirs. Let's see, if a template doesn't exist in the first directory, it checks the second, and so on. Alright, so let's say the news /year archive.html template was found. Here's what that might look like. Alright, so we have extends base.html, block title, I'm not too sure what. Let me see. Not too familiar with what this is. That's okay. That's not what. Okay, it probably tells us down here. But let's see. Black title, articles for year, and block content. H1 articles for year. That's in the H1. Is the game going on right now? Abby, are you awake? Abby, you fell asleep on me? Abby, are you awake?
I'm here.
You fall asleep?
I did. I'm just kidding. I'm here. Sorry.
You fell asleep on me, Abby?
I did not.
Yes, you
I
did.
went off.
You fell asleep on me.
I did not.
What was the last thing I said? What was the question I asked you?
I don't know. I'm just kidding. Sorry. I just like went off on it.
All right, you read the next part. Read this part right here. Read through this listing 6 for us, please. 'Cause I know this. I'm here doing this for you.
Okay, this is the design templates, right?
Listing on page 17 in the PDF.
No, design templates, right?
Mm-hmm.
Design your template?
Yes.
Okay, I'm looking at this code right here. Block. Okay, interesting. Okay, variables are surrounded by double curly braces. Means output the value of the article's headline attribute, but dots aren't used for attribute lookup. They also can do dictionary. Ooh, that's dope. Okay, they can do a dictionary key lookup, index lookup, and function call. Nice. Okay. Ooh, they kind of. Okay. Note the article pub date uses a Unix style pipe, the separator character. This is called a template filter, and it's a way to filter the value of variables. In this case, the data filters formats the Python date time object in the given format as found in PHP's date function. Fascinating. You can chain together as many filters as you like. You can write custom template filters. You can write custom template tags, which run custom Python code beside the scenes. Finally, Django uses the concept of template inheritance. That's cool. That's what the percentage extends base.html close percentage does. It means first load the template called base, okay, which has defined a bunch of blocks and fill the blocks with the following blocks. In short, let's you dramatically cut down on redundancy in templates. Each template has to define only what's unique to that template. Here's what the base HTML template includes the use of static files might look like. Okay, just looking at this code block right here. A bunch of template. I'm looking at it like JavaScript template literals. Interesting. Simplistically, it defines the look and feel of the site with the site's logo and provides holes for child templates to fill. This means that a site redesign can be done by changing a single file with the base template. It also lets you create multiple versions of the site with different base templates. Why are we using child templates? Django's creators have used this technique to create strikingly different mobile versions of sites by only creating a new base template. That's nice. Note that you don't have to use Django's template system if you prefer another system. While Django's template system is particularly well integrated with Django's model layer, nothing forces you to use it. For that matter, you don't have to use Django's database API either. You can use another database abstraction layer. You can read XML files. You can read files off disk, or anything you want. Each piece of Django model's views template is decoupled from the next. I do wonder, what are these? Let's see. What's another template system that they're referring to?
Well, there's a lot. I'm not exactly sure, but there's a lot. It's just kind of like if you read there's a book. Let me see. Well, it's not really important, but there's like others. Like if there, it's like one moment. So it's just a design pattern, and if you read GOF design patterns, it'll give you a little bit more detail in regards to that. Alright, so this is just the surface. This has been only a quick overview of Django's functionalities. Some more features are like catching framework that integrates with meme catch or other backends, which is really good. A syndication framework that lets you create RSS and admin feeds by writing a small Python class, and more attractive automatically generated admin features. This overview barely scratches the surface, and the next steps are for you to download the Django and read the tutorial and join the community. Which is in, I believe it's IRC. Let's see what their community is right now. IRC, yes it is. I gotta download that later. If they need a Discord, I'm about to go on to the next part. Alright, quick install Django. So there's a complete installation guide. I'm gonna install it really easy for us here. Let me go back to page 17. Alright, so we'll just move on to 2.2.1. Alright, so we have to have Python installed first. Python has a light SQL light database, so we don't need to install any others for now. We do need to download the latest version of Python. Do you have Python installed?
Yeah.
Alright, good. Go ahead and open up your terminal and just make sure that you have it installed by like just typing in like Python 3-v, or I think it's a big V, or just type in a like version, or dash version.
Import.
And I think you might be able to get away with just typing Python. Yeah, on Windows I have to type in just Python. And it's giving me 3.9 Python dash version. Okay, so, and also check to make sure pip is installed as well. I think you might have to type in pip 3. I might get away with just typing in pip. I'm gonna do dash dash version as well.
Oh, dash dash. Python 3 dash dash version. Nope, it does not give me dash dash dash.
Try a dash and a big V.
Oh.
And if that doesn't work, try typing in Python 3.
Okay, yeah, it worked. I wonder why it worked because I've never had to use a capital V before.
Because it's on Linux probably. Or Mac. Let's see here. So I'm just gonna check my pip as well. Let me see here.
Pip dash V.
Nope. I know. Yeah.
Bless you.
Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, pip dash V works. Does it work for you on Linux? You might have to try pip 3 dash V.
Pip 3?
Mm-hmm.
There's a pip 3.
Mm-hmm. Wow. It goes for Python 3.
Really?
Because on Unix, I know on Ubuntu, it uses Python 2.7 as the alias for Python, the keyword. So you normally on like a Unix or Linux system have to have Python 3.
It's Kyle.
Who's that, Kyle? Kyle, what's up, bro?
Oh, yeah. He lives.
Just going to do some Django stuff really quickly here. What's been up with you though, bro? We're live on YouTube too.
Sweet. Got a job currently working on a client's project, and working in C#, .NET, MVC, and looking into upgrading their front end that was written 8 years ago into Angular.
Nice. Dude, that sounds epic. Bro, I think Angular is going to take you far. You see Dylan Israel, dude, he just got a job at Amazon. He's been doing Angular for a while, so that sounds nice. But nice work, man. You've been doing very well.
Angular's pretty good. I like it. It's good for if you need something that's batteries included, so that you don't have to worry about third-party packages or libraries breaking on you in production.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a pretty big thing to consider when you're looking at technologies you use in production rather.
Yeah, I know that's the truth. What's been so dang, bro? How long have you been working on that for?
I've been working with them for almost a month and a half now.
How much have you refactored or just redone or done? What have you done so far?
Understanding the business, understanding end users, and then understanding how the application currently works, and kind of getting a mental model in my head as to how it would look inside of an Angular app, and trying to understand like the different pieces, how those would break into components, where we need like the main routing of the application, where we would need sub routing. Do we need lazy loading? Do we not need lazy loading for performance reasons? And then also just understanding like the business pretty much before I even touch code. Code, honestly, in the software world is like 10% of your job. The other 90% is about communication, documentation, understanding your users, understanding business, understanding the goals of the business. And your job is to literally portray that in code. So code is like a small fraction of what you're actually doing in production.
Yeah, it's really about, I mean, from what I understand, it's like just really about getting solutions, solving that problem.
Yeah.
It's like, bro, I was working with this kid, he's like 16, bro. He's sitting there taking me through a formula. Like, he's got like this whole formula, right? I think it was like trig. And he's sitting there like turning this thing bit. He's like teaching this other guy that's like somewhere else in the world. It's like probably like twice his age, probably like 32 or something. And you know, he's like going through, he's like walking him piece by piece how to write out this thing in code, and I'm like, dang, bro, that's really what it's about. It's not about just writing like 100 lines of code, because if you know, that's why it's not about writing a million lines of code. It's about really like just coming up with a solution that works, right, and like that's effective.
Pretty much, yeah. Also, too, learning how to write flexible code as well. I'd say in the beginning, you need to learn how.
What do you mean by that?
Like, so
Like
in the
reusable
beginning,
code?
basically, you're going to learn, or in the beginning, you're going to learn all the things I talked about a second ago, right? But then writing flexible code means that your code isn't tightly coupled to something. So for instance, if I'm writing an API, right, and I have a controller, and that controller is handling some business logic directly, that means that if I want to change the business logic, I have to do it inside of that controller, inside of an action that's being called. Whereas you can abstract that out into its own class or its own library, or and now you can make it a modular piece of code that you can stick anywhere and just call on it from any controller that you want. Whereas you would be writing that same business logic over and over and over again in multiple controllers. Same thing goes for like your data access layer when you're talking to your database. You can write code that's flexible code for your data access, but then also too, like I'm working in C#, so it's object-oriented programming. You can take it a step further and you can make templates for your classes and on your interfaces to where it's dynamic, to where it can accept a bunch of different types of class types basically, and it's done through like using generics. And so you have these templates, so it's like a class is a template, right? Well, now you have a template for your templates where any types of class can be of a generic type that then gets implemented at the class level, and it's implementing this generic setup that you have. So it allows for multiple classes to use this, and all those classes, you can be rest assured like they're going to follow the same constraints. If you need to create another one, you can do it pretty easily, and you know that it's already been vetted and tested. And then even too, it's kind of like self-documenting, because then you can go into the code base and you can look at these generics and you can look at how they're set up, and you can know, okay, well, I have, say, you know, a menus service, and this menus service implements a generic class. Well, then say I have a logging service, but that logging service also uses one of the generics. You can be rest assured that you have this like API in a sense, of which it's a programmer's API, and what you're going to be doing is predictable because of what is backing your classes.
Yeah, dude, that sounds pretty epic, bro. Like, I'm not gonna lie, some of it kind of went over my head, or a lot of it did, but I'm really happy to know that you are freaking just hitting the ground running right now, bro. Like, serious, dude, you are making me cheese right now. I'm so proud of you. I'm so happy. You were, like, I think the majority of this you knew probably, like, a long time ago already, but just the fact that, like, you're just now being able to, like, actually use it, implement it, and just actually, like, just pound the pavement with it, like, super hard. Bro, I'm so proud of you.
Oh no, I know nothing. I know absolutely nothing.
See, and that's the good thing. It's always a cup
at the production,
dude,
coat, and I know nothing.
That's
like,
the only way you're
I
gonna learn.
Stuff. Like, I thought I knew a thing or two. No, so like the leap from, even after going through Lambda, right? The jump from going to like working in your own projects and writing your own code to writing code that affects an entire team and an entire product that has been established, it's a night and day difference. And like, I have skills that I learned at Lambda, sure, that like directly transfer. But the thing about it now is like, you're reading a lot of code and you're figuring out like where to put a certain piece, or you might have to refactor something so that it's more flexible, so that you can implement a feature that's been requested, because now your requirements change on the fly. It's not like you have to rearrange code in some way. There's been plenty of times on some tickets that I've gotten to where they wanted like to redo something or like add in a little feature, but because of the structure of the code inside of the controller, it wasn't possible. So I had to like decouple it, restructure it, and then put in my thing, and then I could get it to work. So it's like the jump it's actually insane, and you can feel it whenever you look at a production setup and you're just like, wow. You realize you know absolutely nothing. Like you think you know something, but you know nothing. And the only thing you have really is are the skills that you kind of learned, whether you were self-taught or went to college or you went to a boot camp of some sort. That's all you got to lean back on. So it's like if you think you know something, you know nothing, honestly, until you can start writing your own like really flexible code and things that make sense, and you get a project that's big enough to where if you're writing in React, you're not lost because now you have like 30 components and none of it makes sense to you, and you're trying to figure out your own code now. That's how you know nothing. You know something whenever you get to that point, and it's all like it makes sense to you. You can walk away from it, come back, it still makes sense, and things just work. That's when you know something.
So how do you approach making clean code while abiding to the current architecture of like the current structure of your application?
It's understanding how they're making data flow. So like for instance with me, right, when I walked into this C# project, I noticed that they have these things that are called class libraries. So you have like your base project, right? But then you have these things that are called class libraries. And what this does is it allows you to break up your API or your server layer, basically, into multiple layers. And they're all disjointed from one another, but they're only used. So like, for instance, you have a UI, which is like your main application, right? And that's like its own project. But then you have a class library and say it's called mycompany.db. Well, that class library is only concerned about data access. So your data access layer is now its own complete layer because of this library. And then say that you have mycompany_name.core. Well, mycompany_name.core, what lives in there are like all your base models. So like when you talk about MVC and you have like your main models that are like the representation of your tables in your database, that's where those models would go. And then you would declare like your interfaces inside of the core library. So now when you use your data access or mycompany.db will then have to use mycompany.core so it can access the interfaces needed to then implement functions that are declared in the interface. Also too, mycompany_name.db is also going to need mycompany_name.core, and it's going to need the models so that the database knows the structure, or not the database, so that your database access layer knows the structure of what's going to come out of the database. And so they talk to each other. And so the way that you kind of write, I guess, quote unquote, good code is you try understanding what's in place and why it's in place the way it is. Because like anybody could walk in and say like, oh, this code is trash, this is garbage, blah, 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 whatever. But instead, if you look at it as this is a working system, it's been working, like what are the reasons? Like you want to try to rationalize, why was this done this way? And then as you try to rationalize that, you can then focus more on like the structure and how things are going and does it work? So for instance, there was another project or another product that we have where I saw this thing and it was really great. So you have your UI library, you have your core library, and you have your DB library. Well, the core library and the UI library both have a folder called models. But on the UI side, and why it's in their view models for Razor pages in C#, and that's what they use to deliver HTML as a Razor page. But those models were called view models, and view models, you can think about it as like, you know how in Angular we have JavaScript that's backing the templates that we write? Ebi, I think you know what I'm talking about, right? Where you have JavaScript that's backing the UI. So like you have JavaScript that's backing your HTML. Okay.
Yeah.
So that JavaScript is a view model.
Ooh.
And so in C#, we have these view models, and it's the actual structure of the data that's going to be put on the Razor page, basically. So you make the page aware of the structure that's coming in by using a view model. But then when you're in the core library, those models are the actual like database models that you're going to be using, but they reside in core because it has to do with core application. It's core domain data. And so you like look at the structure and you kind of start following those principles. But then I would also say you have to do your own research as to like what are some best practices that are done with like X technology. So like I'm learning that in React, for instance, a good practice is to have config objects where it's like objects or arrays of objects, so that instead of writing out a bunch of code that's like hard code a say a menu, right? Like say you're building a nav bar, instead of hard coding the nav bar, you create a JavaScript array or array of objects so that you can iterate through it and continuously build out, so that you just add to that
That was so
object.
hard. Wait, you can do that with JavaScript or with C? Or would you say
It's
.NET?
anything. It's in, and so you like.
You can do. It's just like.
It's just a pattern. It's an abstract pattern. It's a way to render lead.
Oh my god!
It's dynamic.
That's really cool.
I was literally doing that for one of my projects, and I thought maybe I was tripping. That it was like not acceptable.
Yeah, no, it's completely normal to create config objects in React and just map through them, so that then you can just add to that object. So that then, if you need a new piece of UI, you just add it in to that config object, and then React just builds it. Versus you have to hard code and parse through like lines upon lines of component.
Then you have to add the styling. No, it's just BS.
It's all in one spot, and then you just replicate it multiple times.
Oh man, I'm gonna keep doing that because I honestly thought that it was just bad practice. But
no, it's dynamic, right? So it's like less JSX you have to write, but you can just plug in another structure like that, and all of a sudden you have a new piece of UI that's there. It's the same way that we handle dynamic data, but instead it's now static data, but it's configuration. And that was the other thing I noticed is like we do that in a .NET project, where we go to the database, we grab some data that's config data, and then we feed that to a Razor page, which is on the view, and then it just handles that data accordingly via JavaScript. And so, yeah, it's more of like whatever tech you're working in, you just kind of have to go on your own and kind of explore best practices, look what's in place, and kind of draw similarities. Is like, your company might use a couple aspects here, a couple aspects there, and then you might go read something and it's like, hey, this approach seems like it would be better. Let me write a proof of concept on it. And then you write the proof of concept and it's like, okay, as you're going about it, you can kind of see the pros and cons between the two. And so now you have to weigh which way is the better way.
No, you're so serious, bro. That's so true. Like I was like somebody just told me something just like that, bro. So that's nice, bro, that you figuring that out. I love to see you going through this.
It takes a lot though. Like also too, something that's hard is not locking up when you're on the job.
Like freezing?
Locking up?
Yeah. So like just kind of freezing up. It's like thinking, is this the best thing I can do? Can this be done better? Blah, blah, blah. Like, no. Just put a first pass solution in and see if it works. And if it works, great. If not, then figure a different way out. Like I was handed a task and I thought of like 3 different ways I could do things. And I was talking to my boss about it and everything else. And he just told me, he was like, pro tip, don't overthink it. And he's like, I completely trust your judgment and just figure out a way that works.
Sweet.
That's within the requirement.
And it's
he's
true
like,
though, because
so you have 3 different ways, great.
You. He knows,
and it's like,
I feel like he does. I'm not saying he knows you, but I'm saying like I feel like he knows you.
Yeah. And he's just kind of like,
you give
if
off
you know
like
3 different ways,
vibe.
that's great.
Yeah, you got that vibe to you. Like you got it under control. Like you're not going to put yourself in a situation that's really going to mess you up or mess anything up. Like irresponsible. Right. And like you're not stupid. You're knowledgeable. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and it's just more of like. And I was like, well, what's the standard way? It's like, we don't really have one. And it's like, you just get it to work. And I was like, okay.
Do you think that's a good approach?
Yeah, so like there's a standard way we have of doing certain things.
Yeah.
However, like I wasn't putting myself in a bind. All 3 ways were all valid. It was just more of like, do we have a standard of how we want to do this and where we do things?
Got it. So you don't break anything.
Right. So it wasn't so much I was going to break something. It's just more of like trying to future-proof something. And that was the other thing. If you try writing future-proof code, you're never going to write anything. You don't want to write code for the future necessarily. You want to write code that's maintainable, but you don't want to try to like think to the foreseeable future when you're writing this. It's just more of the code that you're writing. Is it flexible? Is it decoupled? Can you plug it in anywhere? And does it work?
Secure.
Yeah. But yeah, so then it's like,
so that aspect,
if you check off all those boxes, just kind of being smart and not like tightly coupling things. And by tightly coupling, it goes back to like, modular code, where you're not going to like shove business logic into your controller, right? Because then what if another controller needs that same business logic? That's tightly coupled code, because now you have to repeat code and you're not following dry principles. Right, so you just abstract it out one layer so that it becomes modular. And if it's like that, then that means that it's maintainable. And if it's working, then it's fine. And you're not trying to future-proof anything. You're just making sure other people can maintain this. It makes sense to do this. It's modular, meaning you can use it in multiple places and it won't break. And that's what modular, dry concepts and design is, basically. So like it's different. And it's different if it's like, I only had one idea and it was like the most garbage idea I could think of. But instead, it's better if you're going to put in a solution, make sure that you have multiple solutions in your mind, because then if there does need to be a fix, you can then adjust accordingly. So it's like, this might not be the best way. I know like 3 different ways I could do this, but I'm going to do this one. And if we run into issues, I already know how I could go about changing this up to make it more flexible if we need to. So it's more of keeping it in mind for the future, but you're not writing code for the future. It's just keep in the back of your head, you wrote this solution, there's this problem at hand, and you're going to put in something that works. And if this doesn't work out, we need more, you have avenues that you can take to do more.
I mean, you're explaining it pretty good to me.
But yeah, so it's been cool. Like, I'm learning a lot. Things I've challenged myself actually is to just kind of take initiative and not lean on people so much.
Nice.
So I still stick to my like 30-minute rule on stuff, which has helped out a lot. And it's been good because it's like, I'm in this foreign tech, I'm in this foreign code base, and slowly but surely, if you try to like keep pressing to like be self-sustainable, within the month I've become self-sustainable to where like I figured out all the layers that we use, how they all interact, how the data flows, how the database works, how the UI works, and like it's all starting to like come together. This past week I finally cracked like how the API works and like how our server layer works, basically.
So I mean, in that
the different
time,
tiers.
in that time, like how much work have you actually like, because I know you're just getting adjusted and kind of like acclimated to the whole everything, right?
I would say
like, because I know for like somebody that's just starting out, they're probably like, oh, I haven't written 10,000 web pages yet and automated this and done that, and it's only been a month. So what I'm saying, like, how do you deal with that? Like, and because obviously everybody's gonna try to
each week.
Say it again.
You measure yourself each week. Like, are you making progress each week?
Did they train
you? I didn't get direct training, but I'll get to that. But the way that you kind of handle the imposter syndrome, basically, is you evaluate yourself each week. So, for instance, I have a goal to where I want to get to the point where I can do 2 cards every week, like no matter what. And that's a pretty ambitious idea because you're in a foreign code base, you're learning new technology, you're learning how everything works, you're learning the flow between teams, which I haven't even talked about. So it's like, that's pretty ambitious, because I'm working full stack, so I can be on the UI, I can be in the server, or I can be in the database. So what I do is I measure myself each week, and it's like, okay, am I getting more comfortable this week, or do I feel more lost this week? And so I'll measure that on a Monday. And then when it comes to Friday, it's like, okay, do I feel more comfortable today on Friday than what I did this past Monday? And if your answer is yes, then you're doing the right thing. If your answer is no, then you need to reevaluate, like, could you go ask for help more? Could you, maybe contact people earlier on your task? So it's like, if you sit on a task, right, you don't want to sit on it for like a whole 2 days, and then day 3, it's like you ask for help, and somebody tells you, well, how long you been on this? And then you tell them 2 days.
What kind of workflow do you guys follow?
We work in multiple teams. So basically, I'm in development, right? And we have a BA team, which is business analysts, and then we have a QA team. And so devs and BAs work directly with one another. So it's like, not only are you learning code and the workflow of code, you're also learning your business practices and workflows. Like, how do the teams work together? Who's in charge of what? Who can I go for information on one thing, and who can I go to information on another thing? And something that helps me to not get locked up is living by our Jira cards. Like, understand the problem statement that you have or the description on the card, look at the comments on the card, see if there's any links to any other like Confluence pages or Jira cards from the past, and just kind of like, it's that saying of, give me 4 hours to chop a tree and I'll spend the first 3 sharpening my axe or whatever. It's that.
Oh.
So it's like, before you even try to write code after you read the problem, like, take that extra step to understand who's been involved before. Because if you do that, then you're probably going to find some documentation. You're probably going to be able to reach out to somebody and ask them some questions you have, as you kind of like formulate how you're going to go about a problem and whatever else. And it's like spending that extra time, because then when you go to write your solution, you're way less lost than what you were before. And if you are lost, then you can just ask people straight up, like, hey, I need a meeting, or hey, you send them a DM and it's like, do you know anything about this, and blah, blah, blah. And so you kind of gather resources as you're thinking of a way to build a solution, of like how building a solution to your problem, basically. But yeah, so that's how I handle my imposter syndrome, and how I have is I measure myself on a Monday and how I feel, and then I measure myself on that Friday. I think like, what could I have done better? What is going good? And those types of things. The other thing, if possible, for wherever somebody works at, is see if you can get scheduled meetings with whoever your lead is or whoever your boss is. And you want one-on-one meetings just to talk about like what they think about your performance. So not only are you self-evaluating, but now you're sanity checking because of what your boss is going to tell you, or what your team lead is going to tell you, or something like that, right? So then now you can find that middle ground of, are you being too hard on yourself, or are you being not hard enough, like where you can get better and things like that.
So what's been like the biggest challenge that you've that you've been going through? That you or your team's been facing?
The biggest challenge I've gone through is just learning foreign tech. So I mostly wrote a lot of JavaScript for full stack. So I was working a lot in Node and Express, and then I was working a lot in like React and vanilla JavaScript. I started learning Java for writing REST APIs and that, but I've never touched C#, I've never touched .NET, I've never touched Razor Pages. And the thing about that too is like the documentation, let me tell you. Finding documentation for C#.NET that's not outdated is very hard. So I've been kind of overcoming like a lack of documentation, because the Microsoft docs are great, but they're very dense. Other than that, you kind of have to scour really hard on the internet to find like condensed info that's something that like, a boot camp student can understand, or like a high school student can understand. Versus having like all the heavy like annotation in the documentation and all these like different things, and you have no idea what it means. So on the tech side, there's been that struggle. I guess the only other challenges that I face besides learning foreign tech would be just trying to stay calm and trying not to lock up. Like, you need to be self-aware, and you need to be okay with like asking a million questions. So like, I ask a million questions, but I'm never repeating the questions that I'm asking. So it's like, I might ask about, something on SQL one day, right? And then somebody's like, oh yeah, here's a couple things here and there, go read on this, and I'll read it. And I'll make sure that I answer my own question with that, but then I might have new questions, and I'll ask those new questions. and then I'll keep asking questions until it all clicks, and that's okay. Because then now the next time that I go to do this, it's like, all right, I already know. Say it has to do with like you're writing a SQL statement and you need to coalesce all the nulls, right? If you don't even know what coalescing is, the first thing they should ask is like, what does that even mean? Or you should go look up like, what is coalescing? Or, W3 Schools coalesce SQL. Professionally, I use W3 Schools. I use MDN. I use all of these things that I was using when I was not employed. It's true. Find resources that work for you.
Yeah, it's the same
because
thing.
then you can just go and read about it, and if you already are familiar with that documentation from that site, it's probably going to make sense to you as to like what this thing is that you don't know how to do. And so then it's like you read that and it's like, okay, you kind of get it, sure.
That's why you go to my website
somebody.
and you notice the only thing I have links to is like free documentation that when you get a job, you can go back to.
Yeah.
And it's not like a video where it's like, oh, I gotta go and it's like videos.
I gotta go into like YouTube, or I gotta go into something else.
Yeah, like I feel like it's not like, and it's not being updated. And I don't know.
Yeah.
Just never mind. But just certain things. Things. Like in regards to like like even W3 Schools, I feel like it's a little bit better than watching like a video. But that's just me. Because like you'll be able to learn it all there, and if you learn that it's all there, then you'll be able to go back to it.
Exactly.
But that's just me.
So yeah, like if you don't know what coalescing is, go to whatever resource you have, like SQL Bolt, W3 Schools SQL, whatever the case may be, and read about what coalescing is. And then once you kind of get an idea, you'll then have more questions that are informed questions that you can then ask a teammate. And then they'll kind of tell you how it works, and they might give you a little example. They may not, whatever the case may be. But you're kind of gathering more information on something you don't know how to do. So yeah, I mean, my biggest challenges have just been the tech over more of like locking up than anything, or like dealing with imposter syndrome. It's just been learning the tech, honestly. It's the same concepts, right? So it's like you have get requests, you have put requests. I was learning Java MVC, so it's like you have models, you have controllers, you have a data access layer. In Node Express, you can have a data access layer. So it's not so much the concepts that are hard, it's more of how are those expressed within this tech that you're using is the harder part. And then it's just kind of like, all your fundamental programming is there, right? So you have functions, you have methods, you have variables, you have data types, you have strings, arrays, objects, so on and so forth, right? But then you have like the good juicy stuff that's like language features that make your life a little easier. And so you'll read a lot of code that like I'll read a lot of C# code, for instance, and it's like I don't have any idea what like 80% of these methods are that are on here, but I'm at least going to take note of these methods, and then I'll just go and research those methods through my own documentation that I use. And then it probably makes more sense, and I can think about the use case for it and things like that, and that kind of helps me out for later down the line. Yeah.
I think so. That's why I can't stress like free resources enough, because one, more than likely compared to a paid resource, unless you're like Treehouse or something, or Lambda, if you're Joe Schmo, just regular old, who knows.blog.com, and you're trying to update all that stuff by yourself, like compared to like how fast, like that's why the right resources like really do make a difference. Like I always recommend Mozilla Developer Network and Free Code Camp, and just the official documentation like python.org documentation, or I kind of compare MDNI, Mozilla Developer Network, to the official JavaScript documentation in regards to like being able to actually read it. I'm not saying it's the ECMAScript documentation, but it's the closest thing I found, and I think the Mozilla Foundation is doing a fantastic job of keeping it up, as well as Free Code Camp and W3 Schools and CSS. I don't know.
Yeah, I would say MDN is basically like the manual of the web. It's pretty much what MDN is. MDN will tell you, it's like the single source of truth. Like, does this thing exist?
Yo,
Yes or no? How does this thing work?
It's the web Bible.
It's the manual. It's literally the manual of the web.
It's the web Bible. That's what on my website. I might just change it to that, but like web Bible.
Yeah. Yeah, seriously. Like MDN, so I'm writing a project for a client right now, right? And something I needed to do was I needed a transparent nav bar, right? But with that, it's a fixed nav bar, so it stays on the top as you scroll.
Yeah.
And I wanted to find a way of how I could blur the background or the content that's behind my nav bar, because I don't want it just like see-through, right? I wanted to blur it somehow and create like this glass effect, or like a frost. So it's like, imagine if you were in the office, you see frosted glass. Well, no, I figured it out.
No, just make sure you don't run into this problem where like your nav bar is like laying on top of the page, and then when you go like full screen, like the nav bar is like actually laying on top of content. You want your nav bar to be like kind of like its own like section, so that content doesn't even flow behind it.
No, not if a nav bar is fixed to the top of the screen.
No, that's what I'm saying.
That's what I'm saying, is that it's a fixed nav bar.
Because when it gets to the top of the screen, like even then, like that issue could still occur.
Right. So the way that I create, basically, it's a fixed nav bar to the top of the screen, so that as you scroll, the nav bar stays with you.
Yeah.
So and it's a transparent nav bar.
Okay. So you figured that out already.
Yeah. So I can actually show you real quick if you look at my stream.
One moment. So yeah, bro, we're actually fucking with doing some Django stuff tonight too, bro. If you wanna, me and Ebi were about to do some Django stuff. If you wanna join us, we're just going through. We're like literally at the beginning of the Django documentation, so you're at the perfect part. You can follow right along. Okay. Cool.
So there's this nav that we have, right? And so this nav, as I scroll, beautiful there's content website behind it, right?
I don't know why I like it. It's just so nice, bright. I like it. It's so clear.
So the problem that I had to start with this whole thing
was that nav bar. I like that nav bar.
Was like with this nav. So this one doesn't have anything that's blurring the background because I'm rebuilding it right now. Mm-hmm. So notice how you can see clearly behind this thing. So imagine seeing content clearly behind it. So the problem we have is we want to be able to make this nav bar, anything that's behind it goes frosted, like frosted glass. And I found out that in CSS, there's this thing that's called, backdrop filter. So notice how behind here, this text gets blurred out.
I see that.
So this is backdrop filter, and it's like, okay, great.
Bro, that's cool.
So the thing about this, though, is that it's not supported everywhere. So if I go into my styles page, I found this thing, and it was through MDN, about how you can check for support for doing stuff like this. Where are you?
So did you figure out how to like just force the browsers to support it?
No. So here's the thing. So I have this thing in CSS. There's this @supports thing, and it will check if something is supported in the browser that you're using.
Oh.
And if it is, you can say use this. Or if it's not supported, this is what I'm using. So instead of the background of that nav being 70% opacity, by default, it'll be 90% opacity. So it's like just enough to let content through, but not bleed through really hard. So if your browser doesn't support this backdrop filter, then it's going to use this. Else, if the browser does support the backdrop filter, it's going to use this. And I found that on MDN yesterday, about talking about how this worked out, and it's just like a media query, right?
I gotta,
so
okay, yeah. Now I gotta check it out.
It's pretty cool, because then if you go onto like caniuse.com and it's like you want to use a new feature and it's only on like 92% of browsers, but you need 100% support.
Oh wow.
This is what you would do, is you set up how you would want it to look if it's not supported, but if it does support it, then use the new styles basically. And that's what that looks like.
Have you been using like React or anything like that lately, as of late?
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. What's up? What's been up with bro?
I forget his name. You know, I'm terrible with freaking names. I forget your name is Kyle. I go by Ace with you.
Yeah.
You're Ace to me.
Depends on who you're talking
Anybody
about.
comes up, "Hey, how's Ace?" I'm like, I know who they're talking about. That's Ace.
You're talking about Alan?
Alan. I was thinking
Okay.
Lewis for some reason. Yeah, Alan.
He's doing great things, and he's learning a
working
lot
yet?
about like. Yeah, he's working. He's been working.
Nice.
He's doing startup things and whatnot. He's learning a lot about like marketing, smokescreen, landing pages, and like how to do like user research and
Bro,
things like that
he's gonna
for
go so far.
building out products.
I can't
Yeah.
wait. Like, I want him to get into Python and kind of do something. Like, if he's doing all that, he should get into like kind of like.
He has no use for it.
No, why?
Mm-mm. He's not doing anything that's back-end work at all.
Yeah, he was never a back end guy. He can make those freaking layouts shine like a beauty in minutes.
Mm-hmm. So
This
yeah,
guy.
he's been doing a lot of like rapid development, a lot of agile stuff, a lot of like
Bro,
user
whoever
research,
picks him
marketing
up is a lucky
research.
mo. Whoever picks up one of them is lucky, bro. Lucky. I'm serious. After he showed me, like, I remember that layout. After he made that layout for me, like that, bro, I was like, all right, bro's a beast, bro. I don't even know he's going through this whole Lambda thing. Like, he's got it already. Like, both of you
Yeah,
guys.
no, he's pretty good. Yeah, so that's kind of like the end of my ranting, and that's like what I've been up to basically is like the new job,
So
understanding that I know nothing.
how did it go?
Yeah,
Like, so
learning
you're
tech.
done with Lambda, bro. How did the end of Lambda, like, how did Lambda go for you?
It was good. I didn't really lean on Lambda. It was more of like I abused what Lambda offered. So like when I went into Lambda, it was just more of like I know that I needed projects and I needed like a foundation, right? Like a start point. Versus like age-old story. Do I use padding to push content away from each other, or do I use margin to push things away from each other? And when do I know when to use the two? That is like my biggest issue when I walked in because I couldn't build a UI
You
when
use
I walked
margin,
in.
right? You use margin, I think.
It depends.
It depends.
depends on what
Okay,
you're trying to
it
do.
does depend. It definitely does depend. Okay, you're absolutely right. My apologies.
But like, so yeah, that's the thing is like you can use margin and padding, right? But dependent upon like, for instance, these my navigation that's up here, you could use margin or padding because you don't have any backgrounds, so you don't see anything, right? But then if these were buttons that had backgrounds and you were like to add padding, it would look really weird to push them away from each other to create space. And so it's like, but unless you're like doing backgrounds and things like that, it's kind of hard to figure out like something simple like that, where it's like in JavaScript, you just need a way for somebody to tell you like, yes, this is what you at least want to start with. This is what you want to start doing.
I mean, they're so right though. I do not.
And so-
I feel like I'm still going through therapy from learning CSS. I spent the year
Yeah.
on CSS, bro.
That's God. You
Okay.
learn CSS as you go.
I learned SAS exactly a year after I learned CSS, and after I was like, dang, it took me a year to figure out SAS was this thing. Once I learned
Damn.
preprocessors, I was like, I'm not learning no more CSS. I don't even want to learn about animations. Y'all can keep all that. I know
Yeah,
SAS,
that's
and I'm about to learn the
public
back end now. I don't want to touch the front end no more. Y'all keep all
Yeah.
of that.
I mean, I use UI libraries at this point. The one that I use for React is Chakra UI. I love it. It's great. I've been using it for 24 hours and I'm hooked. But
Just
yeah,
a
that's way too
tool.
long in CSS. But yeah, so like with Lambda, I more of like used them basically to my fullest potential. I looked for a foundation. I just needed somebody to tell me where to start with, and then I kind of did my own thing from there. So I wasn't like expecting Lambda to teach me, like just to spoon feed me everything.
So
I just
after
needed,
doing it, would you recommend it to me?
yeah, I mean, I would still recommend it. Like if you've at least tried to do web and it's like, or if you've tried any kind of development, whether it be like data science or iOS or like web, you know,
You've stuck
if
by
you've
them
done
from the
it
beginning,
and
so
you
I hear you.
have, and like you have some kind of idea as to how this stuff works, but it's like you don't know how to like put the pieces together, and you're like having trouble with like that stuff, then Lambda's good for people like that because you already have like background knowledge, you already have questions, you already have like things that bug you.
Have you been
that
messing
you
with
get
Node, bro?
answers to. I mean, I haven't messed with Node recently, but I mean, I took like a skills test
Show me some of the
for a
C stuff.
company.
Or what have you been messing with? .NET, you said?
Yeah.
C Sharp?
Yeah, I've been messing with some C# stuff.
Let's see some of what you've been going through with that. What's your resources been for that? Because I know MDN ain't gonna teach you nothing on that, boy. So that's why I'm like, that's why I haven't really dove into anything besides Python and JavaScript, because the freaking everything else besides maybe PHP and Rust, I feel like the documentation for it is just gonna be just traumatic.
So I use a tutorials teacher as like a crash course, basically. So if I need something on, say I need something on like C# has something that's called LINQ. It's language integrated queries. So say I need to learn LINQ, and it's the same way as normal SQL is written.
Oh wow, that's great.
So I'll go in here and I will say select. Like I don't know how to select things because off the top of my head I can't. So I can go in here and it shows me, okay, we get a list of student objects, and I can say from S. So this is like an alias. So if you imagine like an anonymous function, right, where we do like a filter or a for each, where you say array.for each and then item. So this is from S as in student and the students list. I want to select only the student name, and that's going to be stored in select result. And it's a way to filter data using SQL directly in C#.
Oh, dude, that looks actually pretty awesome.
And this is like the
it
logical
looks like a little
execution.
bit much, but it looks like I like how it's I kind of like it. I don't know why.
It's just SQL. It's written in the same way that you would, or it's written the same way it's executed logically. So
yeah,
in SQL,
I think that's why I like it.
the last thing to run is a select statement in SQL. So one of the first
And
things
this is
you
C.
get data source. This is C#.
C Sharp, and then I see like it looks like it kind of like so yeah. I like the way it's written out. I really do.
So that's directly.
Like, what is that new
linked.
thing right there? Why does that say new?
This is creating a new instance of a class.
Yeah, see,
So
that's what it
classes
looks
don't
like.
become objects until you
That makes sense,
actually
bro.
use them. So it's like
Why
you
does it
create
look
a
so
new
logical?
object. What do you mean?
Like I don't know. Why does it look so like I don't know, bro? It looks like really readable.
Yeah.
Like,
That's
'cause
just how
I
it
know,
is.
I haven't looked into Java, but I know people say with Java, oh, you gotta actually create the variable or something, right? You gotta declare it in the data type.
Yeah.
So like, that's what this kind of reminds me of in a way, right? Or no?
Yeah, C# is a better Java, basically. Well,
Okay.
C#'s a better C++.
I
C#
see.
reminds me a lot of C++
did not know that.
because of the language itself. Yeah, so like for instance, if you need to learn something specific about C#, right? Say you wanted to like learn variables because you're just learning it. Well, it tells you, okay, this is an int type. It's going to be called number, and it's going to be 100 because that's an int. And then you have a float, and it's called rate, and we have 10.2f. The f denotes that it's a float, and then you have decimal, and you have all these different types, basically, right? So now let's say we want to look at let's look at an enum. These are pretty cool. So enums, this is a way to group together things that are logically associated. So what I mean by that is, say that we were going to build an enum for mailing type. So you know when you send out mail or you order something from Amazon, you have express, same day, or standard.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you could create an enum and you can call it because normally people would create classes and they would like use static members and whatever, and like, okay, cool, great. But if you want to use something that's more lightweight as far as like memory on the computer, you would use an enum, because an enum is like a class, but these are represented internally with numbers. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is for a week, right? But then if it was for mailing types, you could stuff into here same day delivery, standard, express, so on and so forth. Give me a second. And so then we could use this enum, and then with that enum, you could go and pull values out of this. Let's see. There we go. So say that if we have a shipping type, right? And I wanted to, on a class, say I'm sending a piece of mail, right? And say I'm sending this mail, well, I need to know the shipping type. I could then access my shipping type's enum, and then on the object to create for the mail, I could just say shipping type dot, and then express, or I could say same day, or I could say standard. and it's a way to logically group together data that should be associated, but using a class would be a little bit harder because you have to create static members, and then that it's using a class which is a bigger footprint and RAM. Enums are a smaller footprint because it's just generic information. So what they were doing with these numbers up here is you can assign number values, basically. Under the hood, it assigns number values. So Monday is 0, Tuesday would be 1. So if I said express shipping, that would be a 0. If I said same day shipping, that'd be 1. If I said standard, that'd be a 2. So then...
Hey bro, let me see if I could walk you through this shit right quick. Go to this website right quick. Go to djangoproject.org or .com. Ebi, follow along. Go to documentation.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Now go scroll down on the bottom right hand side. You should see PDF. Under download. Nobody ever has dark mode. Do you have dark mode?
For a PDF viewer, no.
It's okay. I try to get everybody to go to dark mode. Alright, scroll down to... Alright, so... Go to chapter 1. Scroll up. Right there. Alright, so scroll down. Kind of like control plus a couple times. Make it bigger. A little bit more. Okay. That's good. Alright, scroll down. So me and Ebi just went through all this. So this is just Django, right? You don't even really need to know much Python. Scroll up a little bit. It's M model view template. That's the way it's structured. So, you know, abstract layer is models. Scroll down. The views is the logic. Scroll down. Scroll up a little bit. Up, right here. And the template layer is the designer part. Alright, scroll down a little bit. 1.7, it has forms. 1.8, development process. You can learn more later. It has an admin panel. Scroll down, security. It's got good security. Helps from like clipjacking and stuff like that. Scroll down, 1.1, international localization. So robust amounts of that. In regards to framework, systems and all that. Performance and geographic framework. Scroll down. Alright, common web applications. It's got that good stuff. Alright, other core functionalities. Scroll down. Open source project. Scroll down. Chapter 2. Let's create the project. Alright, at a glance. Alright, so scroll up. Alright, it was developed in a fast-paced news environment, designed to make common web development tasks fast and easy. Here's an informal overview on how to write a database-driven web app with Django. The goal of this document is to give you enough technical specifics to understand how Django works, but isn't intended to be a tutorial or a reference. They have that later on. Scroll down to design. Alright, scroll all the way down. Not all the way down, but scroll down. Down. It has a free API. Use with it. Scroll down. Or matter of fact, you would actually probably understand that. Scroll up to the first part of chapter 2. We'll go through that really quickly here. Scroll up. Oh, there we go. At a glance. Alright. Although you can use Django without a database, it comes with an object or relational mapper in which you describe your database layout in Python code. The data model syntax offers many rich ways of representing your model. So far, it's been solving many years worth of database schema problems. Here's a quick example. Alright, so, bro, you see that? Hey, you see there?
Yeah.
Alright, so you see that. So yeah, from Django.db import models /import models Okay, so we see, scroll down, we see that there. This here. Class. Alright. So, yep, so we have all of that. I mean, Kyle, can you explain, maybe you understand a little bit more. Can you explain maybe what's going on there in your head?
Yeah. Basically, models are representations of table data. So, like in your database or in this project, we're going to have a table that's called reporter, and we're going to have a table that's called article. The reporter table is going to have data for something called full name. So we're going to say that this full name is equal to a model's character field. So basically, in the database, in your in tables in a database, you have some data type that's called varchar, which is variable character, which is just a string. So we're saying that this full name column on the reporter table is going to be a string field that has a max length of 70 characters. And this is going to be enforced in the database. After that, we're then just going to have a class string. So like if we say print and then the reporter that we have, it's going to return the full name to us instead of like some craziness.
I think def creates a variable.
No, def creates a function. So this is a method override. So every Python object that you create, or every class per se, has something that's called the stir method and the repr method. This is overriding the stir method, where we're saying, hey, instead of showing us like the object at the address location in memory, just give us something that's human readable, please. That's all this is doing right here.
Okay.
So we're building a reporter table. That table is going to have a column called full name. It's going to be a string field with a max length of 70 characters allowed. After that, we're going to create an articles table. And then we're giving it access to models.model, which is coming from here. So this is basically saying like, hey, we're going to build out another table. In this table, we're going to have 4 columns. A column is public date, headline, content, and reporter. Note this, keep this in mind. We created a reporter table and we have a reporter column. So I'll come back to that. But we're going to have a public date, which is going to be a date field. So in the database, this is going to be a date object. We have another character field, so another string that has a length of 200. And then we're going to have another text field. The difference between char and text fields, I'm not sure. Basically, it's going to be another string. This is probably just to hold more information than what a string or a varchar would. Interesting bit here now. We have reporter. Foreign key, reporter, on delete, models cascade. So what this is saying is we're creating a relationship between the article table and the reporter table. And this is going to be a one-to-many relationship. Here's why. Can a single...
I'm sorry.
Life interrupted. Anyway, so we have this reporter table, right? Where we can have a single reporter. And then the article table, we're associating a reporter to an article.
I'll be back in a second.
Can a single reporter have multiple articles?
Let's see here.
No, just logically, think about it.
Can a single reporter have, yeah.
Yeah, so like if you have a news reporter, right? That reporter, or say you have someone that's blogging articles, right? Can that single author multiple articles?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so then this is a one-to-many relationship. One reporter can have many articles. So we need a way to relate that data between each other in the database. So that's what this is doing right here, is it's creating a reference to this reporter. So it's saying we're gonna have a foreign key, the table is reporter, or not, I say the table, but the class that we're referencing, or the table we're referencing is the reporter table. And we say on delete, we're gonna cascade. What cascading means is that in SQL, you can't delete data that is child data to a parent. Or no, you can't delete parent data to a child. So what that means is like if we delete a reporter, right, that would mean that this data no longer exists.
Say we have a reporter of IDD1.
Reporter of IDD1
has
an
an article. So if we delete reporter 1, but we don't delete the articles,
The reporter name. You're not going to. So
Right.
this cascade means if we delete this reporter, so what this means is if we delete the reporter, then we want to delete the records associated to that reporter. But we can delete an article and not delete the reporter because that's still fine, right? So we delete one article. So now we have 299 articles
Quick,
out of the 300 that they wrote.
quick recap. Why do we want to delete records but not articles?
No, it's not. Records are database entries.
Okay.
So-
okay.
If we delete a reporter, we can't have that child data sit inside of the database anymore because we have no way to reference that. If reporter 1 has 300 articles and we delete reporter 1, but we don't delete the articles, how would you ever get this reporter's name if that reporter doesn't exist in the reporter table?
I see. Okay.
But we can delete an article and keep the reporter because this reporter article, and if you delete one article, then they still have 299 articles.
All right.
So the reporter is the parent, the article is the child.
Let's not get too caught
So
up
if we
on this
delete the
right now.
reporter, we have to delete the child data. However, we can delete child data and not delete that. Sure. So then we
Hold
create
on.
a string.
Okay.
Yeah, we just create a string method like we did a while ago so that when we print it out, it gives us something readable.
Okay. So next,
then-
wait, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so then this migrations thing,
Yeah.
what we're doing here is what's called a code first approach. So say we have a database and it's called My News Report DB, right? Well, the database exists, but no tables exist yet. We define the tables in code, and then it's now like, okay, we need a way to create these tables in the database. And we do that with migrations. So we're going to make a migration, and it's going to read this file, and it's going to create Django for us, is going to create all the SQL written in Python for us that's needed to do that. And then when we say migrate, it will then create the tables for us with all these constraints we have. So it's going to create us a reporter table with a
Ebi, wake
field
up.
that can be a string, maximum of 70. We're going to create an article table with a date field, a character field with a max length of 200. We're going to create text column, and we're going to create a relationship from the articles to the reporter table.
Gabby's knocked out.
So we'll,
It's cool though. I'm with you, bro. We're gonna do this anyway. Straight up. She's gonna have to watch this.
so that's all this is. We're creating two tables. We're defining the fields and connecting the report table to the article table, and that's it.
Okay. All right. So cool. So you get it. Scroll down. All right. So scroll up a little bit. Scroll up a little bit. So you did the migrate. So yeah, figure scroll up just a hair. Oh, my bad. One moment. Fix my connection. Okay, let's see here. Alright, so everything looks good. So go ahead and where it says install it, it says next run Django utilities to create database. So we don't have to do that. Scroll down. And then as you already see, that makes the we have access to a API there. Scroll. So do you understand this here, or like what's going on there, do you think?
So there in Django, there exists a way for you to interact with your Python files in a CLI basically, but it's a Python CLI instead of a normal command line. So this is the Python, what we call the Python REPL. So what we're going to say is, we say from news models, we're going to import article and reporter. So what that's going to do for us is it's going to give us access to these objects basically. So we have access to create a new reporter, and we have access to create a new article. So reporter objects.all
Hold on, is it crucial? Is it crucial to understand the before code to understand what's going on right here? Obviously, right? Yeah, because it's 2 point. Dang.
Yes.
So I should have been taking.
So here's the thing. This is what's called an ORM. It's an object relational mapper.
Okay.
So Python, what Django does for us is it automatically creates think of it as like a communication line between Python and the database. It automatically handles all that for us through magical beauty. So now what we can do is we can run SQL queries with Python code, and Django will convert that code to SQL for us. So with that, in this ORM that Python has, or not Python, but in this ORM that Django has, it exposes us a set of functionalities out of the box. So when we say reporter objects.all, this is an instruction from the ORM. So we say reporter objects all. So this is a select all from reporter table, basically. If you don't know SQL, this makes no sense.
Yeah.
If you do know SQL, then this makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
We'll just have a reporter table, and we get all the entries from the reporter table.
Bro, I didn't know you could just write SQL in there like that. That's pretty nice.
That's the magic with ORMs and code first, is that not only will it set up your database for you with migrations, it will also allow you to directly query it in the native language.
I would have to leave myself comments to make sure I know it's SQL though. Like, yeah, this is SQL.
This isn't SQL. This is Python's ORM.
Okay.
But this is querying the database, basically. So the reason why that happens is because of this right here. We have a models.model, and we have another models.model. So these two classes are inheriting the ORM. Like, we're injecting the ORM into these classes. Does that make sense?
And the ORM is
just a way. It's a beautiful black box that takes care of all of the connecting between the database and Python. So we can just write Python code, and the ORM will handle all this.
And Django is it's Django's ORM. So
right.
So that's Python code with Django's ORM sprinkled on top.
Although you can use Django without a database, it comes with a object relational mapper in which you describe your database layout in Python code. So the data model syntax offers rich syntax ways of representing your models. So far, it's been solving many years worth of database schema problems. So basically that's all it is, or that's what they're saying, is that this object relational mapper is a way for you to interact with your database using Python, and you don't have to worry about writing SQL.
Scroll up just a hair, please. Just a little bit more. All right, so do me a favor. This first block of code, just so that I can make sure that I can proceed, even though, because scroll down. Scroll down, down, scroll down. Next page. Like, I think it's on page like 18 or 19. 19. Go to page 19. Alright, so
15, 16, 17, 18.
This is where, oh my bad, scroll down or up, go make the page go up. Up to the next chapter, not chapter, but section. Section part 1, build a Django app part section 1. Scroll up.
Is it 2.3.2? What section is it?
Scroll up. Almost there. Scroll up. Right here. Alright, so we're almost there. So right here, we're gonna go up. So scroll up. Scroll up. Back to where we were. I think it was like page 7. Alright, so let's just breeze through that so that we can start that out. Like, kind of give me like just the gist of what's going on here. Like all the way through. Yeah, but just for the viewers. What's like a gist of what's going on here?
we're going to create a table that's a reporter table, and we're going to create another table that's an article table. The way we know this is because we have models.model, which means we're creating database objects. We're creating database tables. Any field that you have, so like for instance, full name is a field, pub date is a field, headline is a field. Any field that we have, this is going to be a column in this table. So we're in the reporter table, we're going to have a full name column. In the article table here, we're going to have a public date, headline, content, and reporter columns. The two of these tables are connected via a foreign key. Our foreign key is the reporter. So we have a reporter here, and then anytime we delete a reporter, we're also going to delete all the records in the articles table associated to that reporter. It doesn't make sense because we don't have any IDs yet, but say we had reporter with an ID of 1 or reporter with an ID of 2, right? So reporter ID of 1 is John Doe, reporter ID 2 is Mary Doe. Say we delete John Doe, that would then mean that we're going to delete all the articles for John Doe in the articles table. After that, we're going to create a migration file. All that means is Django's ORM is going to generate the code for us that we need to build out these tables based on our models. And then we're going to, with this migrate, it's then going to apply those changes to the database. So we'll have a database, that's it, no tables. When we run our migration, it's going to create us the article table, it's going to create us the reporter table, and build it out. It's going to build out the two tables based on what we describe in here on this map.
Okay, cool.
So when we talk about models, you should immediately associate it with the database.
Got it. Model database.
Yep. It is a code representation of a table.
A code representation of a table. Yes, sir.
So the class name is your table name, and then all the fields are the columns in your table.
Okay. Oh, that's nice. I like the way that you described that. That sticks very nicely. It's like peanut butter. Code representation of the table.
Mm-hmm.
You've always been very good at that, bro. I tell you what. Like, just your terminology. No, I'm serious. Like, I like layman's terms, like, and just being able to describe something. So, like, I feel like if you can describe it to a 6-year-old, that's the way you should be able to describe it to anybody. Like, because that's why people like Elon Musk. He can describe rocket science to a 6-year-old.
So.
But, anyways, so let's proceed. Alright, now do you want to explain this as well?
What part?
Just the API, just kind of going through the code.
Yeah. So when they say enjoy the free API, something that as a programmer, people need to understand is that we have an API as in like a REST API. Right? So that's a way for us to get information and data. We also have another API term that gets tossed around, which is a programmer's interface. What that means is that an API doesn't have to be just like a REST API. An API can be something that you as the programmer are using to make your life easier. So what they tell us is with that, you've got a free rich Python API to access your data. The API is created on the fly, no code generation necessary. So what that means is that when we pull in our article and reporter classes, the API gets created for them so that we can then query the database. So when we say reporter objects.all, this objects.all is the API. Django's ORM exposes to us a way to query the database using Python native syntax. So this objects thing, we didn't declare this. However, it is a part of models.model because our class reporter and class article inherits models.model. So with that, we get all the goodies that are described within the ORM of models.model, which includes this objects field, and it tells us to get all of the entries from the reporter table. And we can create a new one. So if you know Python classes, then you know that it's just a way to, it's the skeleton of information, right? So we're going to create a new reporter, and we're going to call it the full name equals John Smith. So now we have a reporter object. This object represents something that we can use in Python directly, and it also represents something that we can put into the database. Because remember, our table reporter was built off the structure. So we can say r.save. Because remember, this reporter inherits from models.model. So this r.save is not a part of Python 3 or Python 2. That's a part of Django's ORM. So when we say r.save, what the database or what the ORM is going to do is it's going to write the SQL to create an insert statement to insert this single reporter type. And it's going to go to the reporters table because it's of class reporter. And when we send it to the database, what happens is the database will generate an ID for us that it tracks on its own automatically. We don't do that. But since we saved it, we now have access to something that's the ID of that reporter that we just created or that we just inserted to the database. So this is the beauty of the ORM, is that we didn't write this functionality. We don't care about this functionality. All we want are ways to create, read, update, and delete data, which we have access to. We create data here, we send it to the database, and then we read data from the database. And that's what they mean by the API, is it's a code, it's a programmer's API. That's the best way that I can explain that.
I get it. I get what you're saying. It also has an admin panel. Scroll. You want to finish up or scroll down?
Yeah. So let's notice something here. So we ran reporter objects all up here, right? And we got nothing out of it. Well, we created a reporter, we save it, we get the ID, so we ensure that, like, okay, this did work. So now when we run it again, we actually get back something here. We get John Smith. And then if we run r.fullname, we'll get John Smith's name. And then now we can start writing queries. So it provides a rich database lookup API. So now you can write queries in Python using the ORM. So we say to the database, hey, get me the reporter who has an ID of 1. And it's going to return back to us as a response, John Smith. Because we created John Smith here. He has an ID of 1. We made sure of that here. So now we can just say, get me the ID of where it's 1. And it'll get it for us.
So all this is a command prompt.
Yeah, this is all in the Python REPL. So
Nice. I didn't know that. I thought it was all like insert code.
yeah. No, this is all within the Python REPL.
Nice.
So that's the crazy thing, is that inside of here, you can actually open up Python's REPL in your project. When you do that, you have access to these files, right? So if you're in a Django project that knows what news models is, and it knows what article and reporter is, because we defined it here, and it's inheriting models model, then you can just use the REPL to test all your code to make sure it works properly. And you can now play with it interactively to kind of start poking around at the different things that you can do with it. And you can start kind of playing around with it and getting comfortable with it.
Hardcore, homie! Alright, so you want to finish this up, or what's going on here? Look at all the rest of this. Dude, that's awesome, bro. I did not know this was in REPL, man. You can do this in VS Code in your editor right there. That's nice.
Just remember, it has to be within your Django project. It's not a part of Python. It's a part of Django.
We're going to get there.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, it's like, let's just reason this, right? So we know that when we say class.objects, that means it's going to be with the database. So we say we want to get some data, and we're saying where the full name contains myth. So that means it's like, say that we have, say, John Doe, Mary Doe, and Gene Smith. I want to get all of the records that have or that contain OE. if we did that, we would get back John Doe and Mary Doe, because OE is in John Doe and Mary Doe. If we want to get John Smith, we can just do a fuzzy. This is what's called fuzzy searching. Or it'll match every record in the database that has in their name MITH. Currently, it's just John Smith. Here's a fun one. So we've only created one record, right? And that's John Smith. So if we say it to get us an ID of 2, we get a traceback error, and it says reporter matching query does not exist. So, okay, what gives? Well, we asked the database for a record that doesn't exist. So it's not an error, it's just data doesn't exist. So now we're just gonna do the same thing. We're gonna create the article. So we need date time because our class up here uses a date field called public date. So we're going to bring in the date library, and we're going to get date time. So we're going to create a new article. So we say article, and we're going to pass in all the parameters that's needed to create the class. So we say pub date equals date.today. Headline, so this is the headline of our article, Django is cool. And then we're going to have a content that says yeah. And now our reporter. So it says reporter equals R. Well, why does it equal R? Well, if you remember, in our migration, we said the reporter is a foreign key so the article table must reference the reporter table to figure out this information here. So when we created our R right here, that gives an ID of 1. Well, that's a database record that exists now, right? So now we need to feed the article the data that it's referencing. You can't just pass in anything here. This has to be an actual reporter object. So we're going to pass in our reporter object, and then we're just going to write it to the database. So then we just say a.save. That's great. Now we use the class article objects.all. It's going to get us all the articles. It's going to return back to us an article that says Django is cool. So you notice how we get this nice printout here where it's like human readable? Stir self.headline, stir full name. The reason why we get these really nice things is that is our stir method in action. If not, it would just say article and then at some memory address, but it doesn't. It gives us the article's name. So this is just proving like, hey, what we're saving to the database is in fact the data that we just entered, and here's the proof. Django is cool. Django is cool. We can also say, so it says here, article objects get API access. Article objects get API access to related reporter objects. So what the hell does that mean? Basically what it's saying is that this article knows what this reporter is. So it's going to get that for us. If we say a.reporter, that's a class. So we're saving it R. And so if you look back at our class, reporter has a field called full name. So then if you say, where are we at? If you say R equals, from the article, if we want to get the reporter, you just say a.reporter. So now we have access to the reporter class directly, and you can say r.fullname, and it's going to give us John Smith.
Okay.
And then we say r article set.all. So the way that this works is this reporter is actually coming from the article object, right? So that means that this reporter has access to the articles table. So we are going to get every record from the articles table where this reporter's ID is attached to an article. Currently, it's just Django is cool. And then we can say we're going to filter it. API relationships as far as you need, performing efficient joins for you behind the scenes. So this filter can be a join. and it says it finds all articles by a reporter whose name starts with John. So we can say article.objects.filter. We're just going to say where the reporter full name starts with John. And then it's just going to get us back Django is cool. So this is just different ways of showing you like, hey, we created tables and we can interact with the database in different ways, and here's how you do it. So this is kind of like a primer, and you are required with the prerequisite knowledge of 1, you know how classes work in Python. 2, you understand SQL and how it is to create database relationships between tables. And 3, you are querying data using Python because of Django's ORM. So you're lost in how all this works. It's because the ORM is joining 2 worlds into one, basically.
Yeah, okay, yeah. No, and it's just a glance. Scroll down. We're almost done.
So we do some more things with the article. It's fine. We get the full name. We save. Here we're updating a record, right? So the full name was John Smith. Now we're saying the name is Billy Goat. So we say that, we save it, and then we just delete it. So this entire REPL assumes you know SQL, and it assumes that you understand Python object-oriented programming or Python classes. If you do, this is very upfront and easy to understand. If you don't, that would probably be why you're very lost. So yeah. So I guess if anybody that sees this at some point in time, if you have this PDF and you're kind of reading this on your own and you're lost as to what's going on, you need to figure out, do you understand SQL? Do you understand what it means to have relationships between tables? If so, then you need to see, do you understand Python and OOP with Python? Do you understand Python classes and how inheritance work? Say that you understand the inheritance part, then you need to go look at the SQL part. If you know the SQL part, go look at the Python part.
Open up a new tab right quick, please. Type in w3schools.com. Click on the Python. I think it's tutorials. Yeah. Click on classes. Should be somewhere in there. And then go scroll to the top, and where you see SQL, open that up in a new tab as well, please. And I mean, yeah, the SQL, if they don't understand, they can just go learn the SQL real quick. Everything is actually really concise and to the point. You can close that.
Yeah.
And then, go back, close the SQL, but keep the Python open. And then with the Python, you said the classes and objects. Yeah, they can just check this page out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they give examples. Yeah, so if you don't understand what's going on with the ORM, it's because it's combining SQL and Python object-oriented programming together. What I mean by that is we have this object instance of an article. Well, we declare properties and we didn't declare any methods. So we just have properties that we can read and assign. The ORM, because we inherit from models.model up here, that is an object coming from DjangoDB, and we're going to import models. So that's how the ORM comes into play with these classes, is because it's coming from Django database. We're using models. Our reporter class and our article class is inheriting that. So when we create new instances of a reporter or a new instance of an article, we're going to have access to all those methods that come baked in from the Django ORM through the models class.
Nice. I love it. Scroll. All right, so we're almost done. If you want to close out those two tabs, it's fine.
What I will say, I guess, is if you're like, okay, SQL, great. There are ways that you can try things. I think you can do, yeah. So in these SQL tutorials, you actually have access to writing real SQL. So I can run this and I can get data from in here, right? So say you wanted to learn how to filter data where we only want records where the city is Berlin. Well, I can say select from SQL where is it customers.city equals Berlin. Boom. So then now it's like, okay, so you kind of learn how to filter data here. So then if you know the SQL part, when you're reading this and it says, where did we do it? Full name contains Smith, you can now start to infer like, oh, this is going to be like a select statement where full name is like Smith. And if we go to SQL, there's a like thing. The like operator is used in a where clause to search for a specified pattern in a column. Okay. Where customer city is like, prepare statement, syntax error. Apparently I don't remember how to use like anymore. Where like pattern. Find any values with A. Oh, okay. So we just missed a percent. Here.
See, and that's
There
why
we
I
go.
like W3 school so much. And Ebi
So
and
the way I figured that out was how the like operator works. So we see we have a percent, percent A, percent or percent. So what percent stands for is it can be anything. So we have A and then percent. So what that says, we want anything that starts with A and then has whatever else behind it. Or in our scenario, we want any letters before it, but we know for a fact it's like A. For us, we want to get all records that end in LIN. It can have anything before it, which is that percent sign there, but it needs to have LIN at the end of it. Sure enough, we got Berlin.
See, the cool thing is, it's like I remember going through the SQL, so when I look at the documentation, I remember it. But it's just different seeing it in code.
Yeah. So whenever you go into these editors within SQL, you can always poke around at this database that they expose to you with any SQL you want. It doesn't have to be whatever the topic was about. So I can just select from all the customers again at the customers table. Cool. Yeah, so that's how you'd poke around in that. And then say for the Python stuff, okay, we're going to try this out ourselves real quick. Well, let's create our class stuff, right? So we're going to have a reporter and say we're going to have a first name. Trying to think about how this works out. We're going to have a last name. It's been a while since I've written Python.
You have to put
okay.
the parentheses, I think. Or, did I say parentheses? What am I thinking?
Yeah.
Colons?
Not here.
Oh.
And then we're just going to return first name plus last name. All right. So now we can say reporter 1. I'll zoom in a little bit real quick. All right. So we'll say reporter 1 equals, and we're going to create a reporter whose first name is going to equal John.
Is this Python? This is Python?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to create John Smith. And then we're going to print R1 dot first name. And it might fail. It's been a while since I've done Python, so let's see. Yep.
Yeah, I'm looking at the class. I think it looks like the class to me. I'm not sure.
Oh, hold on. Yeah, no, I messed up here. Okay.
Yeah, it looks like JavaScript and Python and C. What's going on here? Like, cause I'm looking at it, I'm like, am I totally lost? I forgot how to write classes that bad.
Yeah.
Like, your
it's
classes look
possible.
like 3 different classes. Your
So-
classes go hard, homie.
When
You're
you want to
going
write a
hard with C
class,
right now.
so the reason why this one works here is because when they create a class, by default, x will equal 5. However, if you're going to create a class that then is used, we need this init. And it's going to take in a name and an age. So let's go and fix it. And I enjoy that I get the error in real time because you get to see how this would be solved.
So you just
I
have to
wrote
put-
something that was wrong. Well, yeah, so I wrote something that was wrong, right?
Yeah.
So to create a class, use the class keyword. So they create a class, but it has a default value of X. If you look here, we don't have default values, and I figured that this was going to be wrong. So we didn't assign a default value to first name or last name. So that wasn't it. So now the init function. So the examples above are classes and objects in their simplest form, and are not really useful in real-life applications.
Okay.
To understand the meaning of a class, we have to understand the built-in init function. So all classes have a function called init, which will always execute when the class is being initiated. Use the init function to assign values to object properties or other operations that are necessary to do when the object is being created. What this means basically is anytime you want to use or initialize a new object, you need this init for whenever you're going to pass in dynamic data. So we can see here, we create a person class, def init, okay? So this is gonna run when we create a new person. We have to pass self. This is a thing that's Python specific. You must always pass self. And then you pass in the data you're expecting, a name and an age in this instance. So self.name references the instance of a class. This is stuff that the class needs. Name is what you are passing in as the programmer. Same thing for age. Self.age is in reference to person. Age here is in reference to what you are passing in when you call the person class. So P1 person. So John here is name, which is the value that we're assigning to self.name. That's this name. And then we have 36, which is age here. And then self.age equals age. And then we can use it. So then let's use this blueprint. I don't believe in copying and pasting, so if you had to, you could do this. You can go to the side one side, and then go to the other side. All right. So let's do that. Let's do this. But we're not going to use what they gave us. We want to use what we want. So we're going to follow this template. So I want to create a reporter class that has access to a first name and a last name. So how would that work? We're going to say def. Underscore init. I believe that's double underscore. Yeah, it is. We're gonna pass in self.
I
We're
don't
gonna
know
pass
why
in.
the lower half of the screen is blurry. Okay, it's slowly getting better.
So we're gonna pass a first name,
That's
and we're going to
Discord.
pass a last name. So now we can go in here and we can say self dot first name equals first name. Self dot last name equals last name. And then we have this string, which needs to be double underscore. And the double underscore thing is just a Python thing. That's just the convention that's used in the language. But cool. So now we should be able to just say John and Smith. You might be asking, well, why are we deleting first name and last name? Well, look at our example here. They don't say name equals John, age equals 36. They just do it positionally. So the first parameter, name, is John. The second parameter is age, which is 36. So here, our first parameter is first name, John, last name, Smith. And then we're going to print our first name, and I'll do this for us. So I'll print r1 dot first name, which I already did below. Print R1 dot last name. And then I'm just going to print out R1. And let's give ourselves a little bit of help here. And then I believe this should be full name. Alright. So now that we have our template here, let's give it another shot.
Do me a favor, like, make it so that the screen... Make it so that, like, the screen is, like, so that your window is, like... Just drag the top of it down a little bit. Like, your window, yeah. Not now, like, yeah, a little. And then move it down a little bit more. A little bit more. More. Yeah, right there's good. My bad, because I couldn't see what it was that you had read. Like, the whole top of your screen, like, up there is like a... It's like above def. Above where it says def, like this string, and then return first. All above that, yeah, there we go. So I can see all that now.
Okay. So our issue here is a classic Python issue. It says that we're using tabs and spaces together, so that's fine. Basically, we have too much indentation. Let's run again. And it's doing it again. Oh, we have an error here. So it's saying, let's see, return first name plus space and then last name. It has no idea what to do. We just need to add another plus sign because we're adding two strings together, but I want them to have spacing. So let's do it again. Inconsistent use of tabs and spaces and indentation. I have no idea. I can only concatenate stir. Okay. So not reporter to stir. Oh, I see. So it doesn't care about this self thing at all. Give me a second. So what it's saying here is that we're trying to add a string to a reporter type, so that doesn't work out. So instead what we have to do is this. Maybe it's gonna run now, hopefully. I don't normally program in Python, it's been a while. So it takes 0 positional arguments, but holy moly, we finally made it. Okay.
Hey, nice.
So basically what I was trying to do was stir
Nice.
wasn't being done properly, so we just said forget it. You can override stir, so I guess we could try and figure that out really quick, is how we would override stir.
See, guys, that just goes to show, just because you got more code doesn't mean nothing. You literally just took out, like, 2 whole chunks of your code, bro. Then it worked. Nice.
Yeah, so let's get it to work properly. Let's get it to do what we want
Yeah,
it
that
to
was
do.
pretty cool. That was like magic.
I'm sure Python programs are probably screaming at me right now, but it's fine. We'll figure it out. Okay, so pass and solve. It's been a while since I tried to overwrite the stir method, and I used to know how to do it. Inconsistent use of spaces and indentation. Alright, so this is literally what I would do. Just Google Python stir, and look at that. Not the right one. Real Python, really good resource.
Yeah.
So we have self.
I'm actually subscribed to their newsletter. They got really good newsletters.
Let's see if this works. So I just want to trim this down to where I don't get an error, and we run. Inconsistent use of tabs and spaces. How? So this is the one thing I hate about Python, is it's very picky about tabs and spaces.
Yeah, it's like you should do like 3 spaces.
It's supposed to be 4.
I don't know. We would have to consult Pep8 about that. You're probably right.
Okay. For a reason, it's not happening. But in theory, this would work where you pass in self, and then you can churn out self.firstname instead of whatever this is about to give me, which I will show you. So earlier I was saying you'll get some like random address for the object that you have. Seriously.
What? Oh, it's still not working.
No.
It's okay.
So this is what I meant by that.
Give me one on that's a quick bathroom break.
Let's put some gravy in it.
All right, let's see if we can keep trying to get this right. I really don't like this in here. Wow. All right, so there we go. It works now because apparently we have finally gotten this tabbing and spacing correctly between the different indentation. So something that Python is picky about is tabs versus spaces, and which ones you use. Basically, you just need to have consistent indentation. And for whatever reason, before it was inconsistent, we were doing something wrong, but the setup was correct. It's hard to do it in here, but when you're in an actual like text editor, it's actually pretty easy to get done. Cool.
Let's put some gravy
I wonder if it was this new line that I had. Nope. Okay, that's good to know. It's sorry to have like derailed this entire session, y'all. I just kind of wanted to show how you can go about your lesson docs, how you can kind of go about playing around so they can come back. We got it working, John. So we got the stir thing working. I have no idea why it was messed up. It was just spacing between our tabs and spaces for our indentation here, but it's working now. So just to demo that out, we get John Smith here, right? Because we print R1. If we take this out though, now that we got it working, and we run this, this is why we override the stir method. This means nothing to us. This is unhelpful by any means necessary. So if you don't want to see this when you're printing out objects, always remember, override your stir method and have it return what you want to see. And it'll work out. Yeah, so sorry to derail that for so long, but that's literally how you would play around, and that's how you kind of learn, is you get these sandboxes and you figure out what is what. And I guess too, to kind of drive home what we were talking about earlier about with this Django stuff here. So let's try to use a save method, right? So kind of like really drive this home.
Well, we gotta set up the app first. That's what we're aiming for. We gotta set up the save. That's not Django. That's just
right.
Okay.
So let's prove it here. So I'm gonna say r1.save. Reporter object has no attribute save. So there we go. We can prove now, and we can use this to help us figure out what is Django and what is Python, is when you see something that you don't know if it's Django's ORM or if it's Python built in, just go into a REPL, create a simple class, and try to run it and see if it works or not. And that will tell you ultimately a yes or no. Just ask Python and it'll tell you.
Bro, you may hear me going in and out. That's just like me muting myself so I don't chew in your ear.
Yep.
Got like pizza.
So yeah, that's it. We just create an article. Once your models are defined, Django can automatically create professional production ready administrative interface, a website that lets you authenticated users add, change, and delete objects. The only step required is to register your model in the admin site. So, okay. So what this is saying basically is like if we want to manage. All right. So if you want to manage tables in your database through the admin panel, you have to register that table in the admin panel. And the way you do that is what they're showing here. So what they're saying is we have our article class, right? Still the same thing from earlier, but they're just kind of showing that we have this here. And the way that we register it is this way. So from Django.contrib, we're going to import admin. And then from here, from the current directory, import models. And then we're just going to run this one line of code, admin site register models.article. So basically this is registering this article and the admin panel to be managed inside of the admin panel. And it says the philosophy here is that your site is edited by staff or a client or maybe just you, and you don't want to have to deal with creating a back-end interface to manage your content. One typical workflow in creating Django apps is to create models and get the admin sites up and running as fast as possible so your staff or clients can start populating data, then develop the way data is represented to the public. And yeah. So basically what that said is create your models, stand up your database, and if you need something in the admin panel, create a small script to register all of the tables you need to be accessible in that admin panel. That's the TLDR of what this is.
Nice. Okay. So, dude, check out. Scroll down a little bit. So we're almost done. Yeah, I like this part. Like the URLs part. It's really nice.
Clean, elegant URL scheme is an important detail in a high-quality web application. Django encourages beautiful URL design and doesn't put any cruft in URLs like .php or .asp. Oof. Shots fired at PHP and Java. Not even good.
You said shots fired.
Oh, never mind. That's C#'s old ASP stuff. Okay. To design URLs for an app, you create a Python module called URL conf. I like how there's little links. Does this tell us what?
Oh, dude, the links are rabbit holes. Before I've read all this, I'm up to the first to the second part of creating an app. I've read all of the links up to that part, bro. I'm ready to start making the app now.
A table of contents for, okay, so the URL conf is a table of contents for your app. It contains a mapping between URL patterns and Python callback functions. URL confs also serve to decouple URLs from Python code. Here's what URL conf might look like for the report/article example above. So we have articles, int, year, view, year archives, int, year, month. Used up month archive. Okay. The code above maps URL paths to Python callback functions views. The path strings use parameter tags to capture values from URL. The user requests a page, Django runs through each page or each path and stops at the first one that matches the requested URL. If none of them matches, Django calls a special 404. Fast because the paths are compiled into regular expressions at load time. Nice. For example, or once one of the URL patterns matches, Django calls the given view, which is Python function. Each view gets passed a request object, which contains request metadata and the values captured in the pattern. If the user requests articles, all right. So let's look at this. So we see articles, we have a year, we have a number, and we have some other number. So if you're kind of like, okay, well, what does this even mean? Like, how is this mapped up here? Well, let's see. We have articles, right? And then now we see we have 1, 2, 3 numbers passed. So you can look at this and say, which of these paths takes 3 values that aren't just static information. And it's our last one right here. 1, 2, 3. So it's going to take in a year. That's 2005 is the year. It's going to take in a month. So it's going to take 5 for the 5th month of the year. And it's going to take a PK. PK stands for primary key, which is probably going to be an ID. So we're asking for an article of the year 2005 for the 5th month in the year with an ID of 39323. Django would call the views, the function news.views, article detail, request year 2005, month 5, PK. That. And then writing your views. Each view is responsible for doing one of 2 things: returning HTTP response object, getting content for the requested page, or raising an exception such as a 404. It's up to you. Generally, the view retrieves data according to the patterns, loads a template, and renders the template with a retrieved data, or with the retrieved data. Here's an example view for the year archive from above. So here we said it's going to do views, news, views, article detail. Or no. Views, article detail. This example uses Django's template system, which has several powerful features, but strives to stay simple enough for non-programmers to use. Okay. So we get our request object, and we're taking in a year. So we're going to say we have a list for articles list. We're going to say article objects, and we're going to filter. And we're going to filter by the date, year, that equals the year. So this year is being passed in here to our query, and context equals a new dictionary, where we're going to get a year, supply the year, article list, and then we're just going to supply the list of articles, return, and then we're going to render request news, year archive HTML, and context. So this is data getting sent back. We're sending back an HTML page with this data, and we're going to give a request object. And then we're going into Django templating. The news year archive HTML template search path, which allows you to opportunity among templates in your Django settings. You specify directories to check the templates with dirs. If a template does not exist in the first directory, it checks the second, and so on. Let's say the news year archive HTML template was found. Here's what it might look like. So we're going to extend base HTML, and then block title, articles for this year, block of content, articles for the year, for article and article list, articles headline, reporter full name, the published date, FJY, double curly braces means output value. Okay. This syntax is Django's templating syntax, basically. So anything that's in double curly braces, this is data that's coming in that we sent inside of our render method here.
Oh, okay, I see.
So when we say to render something for this page here has access to this data. So we have a year here. We have a list. So when we say year right here, that's talking about this year. That's inside of our context. When we say article and article list, we have a key here that's called article list. This is that article list. So double curly braces is how we inject data into the HTML itself. And then we have these directives, so curly % for article and article list. For each article, we want to render out this template. And then we end the for block, and then we just end the entire block that was created right here for content.
Okay.
Load static, title block, title, and block. Body, source, static.
Let's put some gravy on
I'm guessing this is for static data. I don't know what all these mean, but that isn't
No, it'll explain
really
it down
important right
below.
now.
No, that's not important at all.
Yeah, it's just understanding that this syntax that we see right here is Django's way of injecting data into an HTML page using Django's templating engine.
Yep, oh, that's just a glance.
Install Python, set up a database,
Alright, so
Postgres, MySQL.
yeah, just at this point, just
Install
make
Django.
sure. Hold on, scroll. Where are we? Okay, so yeah, scroll up a little bit. Scroll down a little bit. Alright, so yep, install. Alright, so go ahead and just open up your command prompt.
Oh, I'm not installing Django.
You're not?
No.
No, why? Why aren't you installing Django? You're just not installing Django. I mean, so you're not gonna set up a Python virtual environment?
Nah. However, I do have to step away, so
You gotta go. Okay.
I will be back.
Well, how should I? What should I do? Should I just wait for you?
No, just go ahead and go. I've already built Django projects before. Django's not unfamiliar to me at all.
Nice, dude. Well, it was good catching up with you, though. I tell you what.
Yeah. I'll be back. Just give me a little bit.
All right, I'm gonna get started. Let me see who else is here. But you have a good one. Abby's calling. It's okay.
Let's put some gravy on
All right. So what I'm doing here is creating a virtual environment in my virtual environments directory for this particular project. And each time you so every time you start a new command prompt, you also have to activate your virtual environment. So from my virtual environments directory, outside of the one level above the virtual directory that we just created, I'm gonna go ahead and since I'm on Windows, I'm gonna run this here. If you're on Unix space system, you probably run this here to activate the virtual environment. So it's this project name. What was the name of the project I just made? The app. And as you see, the virtual environment is now activated, so I'm gonna go ahead and CD in there. And now I'm ready to begin the rest of this tutorial. Alright, also you have to make sure you have Python and pip installed.
Let's put some gravy on it.
Alright, so what I'm doing now is installing Django. Alright, so that download was complete.
Let's put some gravy on it. Let's put some gravy on it.
She'll go till like 3 in the morning. Or 5 in the morning. She don't play.
I was up till like 2, I think, last night. No, 4. Yeah, I was up till 4.
So-
Writing.
Your new job, is it contract? Like, how are the hours?
No, it's full time.
Full-time hours. Oh, that's understandable.
Let's put some gravy on it.
Yeah, so you said you built some Django projects already?
I've done a couple, yeah.
So I can show you, I can give you some notes really quickly on just how to set up a Python virtual environment. I literally just set one up. It's super easy.
Yeah, you use pipenv.
Oh, okay. You got it. literally,
Yeah.
literally, that's it. Alright.
Yeah, you just use pipenv, and then it's kind of like
And that's really it.
Yarn
Just
and
CD into
npm. It's like Yarn and npm because it'll create you like a pipenv file to like manage all the projects packages and whatnot.
it.
But then you can enter into a virtual environment that's only self-contained in your project, so you don't have to worry about like managing virtual instances.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about having all that stuff downloaded on your computer. You know, having the wrong type of, like for example, version of like a package or something.
Yeah, when I was in
Yeah.
Django projects, I wasn't installing in Django. I was using a pipenv environment, and then activated the environment, or the shell rather, and then that's how I was using Django stuff.
So since getting this, how have your, I don't know, how have like your goals changed?
What do you mean?
Like, since like getting the new job, how like has anything changed? Like, is everything still kind of like the same?
I think they're ever changing, honestly. So it's always like, now it's just juggling a set of skills. So it's kind of, I don't want to lose what I know with React and whatnot, but I'm not working in React anymore. So I have to kind of like work on little React things here and there on my own. And then I have to kind of, at some point I'm gonna have to pick up Angular so I can do setting up Angular in production. But other than that, I'm like always striving for like new concepts and new design patterns, basically, or just like learning how to be a better programmer by like watching others and how they structure some projects, what are some of their best practices, reading about best practices, and then just kind of judging on my own, like, do I want to employ that practice or not, basically. Every now and then I'll practice some data structures and algorithm stuff.
What are they, so what do you feel like you're mainly going to be doing? Like more
Full
back end or
stack.
front end? Full stack, okay.
No, that's what I am. I'm in a full stacks position.
Are you guys gonna go towards React or?
No, so it's going to be an Angular I've decided on.
Oh yeah.
The reason why is because Angular is MVC much in the way that C#.NET is MVC. But everything you can kind of self-contain on the front end for front end's purposes and like separate the back end from it. Also too, TypeScript was created by the makers of C#, so TypeScript was made by Microsoft. And the way it's written is kind of it doesn't feel foreign. The setup of Angular doesn't feel foreign and how it works, other than like components and managing data on the front end. But as far as like how it's all orchestrated and whatnot, it makes sense.
Oh, Angular? Yeah. I mean, honestly, I would learn Angular. If I was in like, if I wanted to work in the front end, like, I would definitely learn Angular.
Yeah.
Like that and React. I'd probably learn React first and then learn Angular. But definitely learn Angular.
I don't like. The only reason why I don't like React is because of the potential of packages breaking on you.
The reason I wouldn't learn it is because, like, the first is because it's probably be a lot quicker to learn. And then, you know, while I'm actually using it, I'd probably be able to just learn Angular for a long time.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense.
I mean, it does, but it's like at the same time, you only have so much time, so don't split your time into something you don't plan to actually develop in.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But also, too, Angular is slightly opinionated in how you build out your projects and your project structure, whereas React is like, don't care what you do or how you do it, as long as data flows where it needs to go. Which can kind of become chaos. How are you trying to set this up?
I mean, I'm just following the instructions. I think I ran a command, but I don't think it. So I did Django admin start project my site. I think it was supposed to create an app. Was it supposed to create an app? So it was supposed to create a directory, but it didn't create the directory. So I gotta run it again.
How are you using your virtual environments?
My virtual environments. Yeah, I think that's why I didn't run the first time. I had to set up the virtual environment. Kind of got sidetracked.
I thought you were using pipenv.
No, I am, but I forgot to activate it initially. That's why when I run this the first time, it didn't create the directory. So now it works.
Do you have a git bash?
Git bash? What's up? Oh yeah, do I have it? Yeah, I have that git bash installed.
Okay, you know you can set that as your terminal in VS Code, right?
Yeah, no, I have WSL installed too, but I just don't feel like it. I'd rather, because when you use it with so when you create a Django project on Linux compared to like on Windows, it's like it sets up, it creates different files. So I'm just kind of like focusing on the Windows version for now, even though even though I'm more comfortable in the Linux version. You know what I'm saying?
Literally, I've never ran into issues when using git bash.
No. I'm just saying I'm just trying to go through the documentation in like the Windows way.
It's the same in git bash.
I don't know. I just don't feel like it. I really do. I have like WSL installed, like literally.
Oh yeah, no, but git bash is different completely from WSL.
Oh really? I have that too. I have git bash too. But look, I don't know. I don't see the difference. What's the real difference?
Git bash has, well, one, you have some Unix command line tools, so you have like ls, cd, grep. I don't think you have awk or sed, but I know that you have curl and like a few others. And then git bash works a little bit better with bash in the sense of that currently right now you can't even see like what project branch you're on. Git bash will tell you the project branch that you're on. It's like if you use multiple branches within a project with your git, it'll tell you which one you're in, like by default as part of your terminal prompt.
Wait, oh, word? I didn't know that.
Mhm. And also, you don't have to worry about Windows command lines. You can just use like ls and cd and all that crap, cp, mk, and it just works.
No, it's alright. I've honestly the last like week or so I've just been getting familiar. I'm really comfortable in like all of it. I really am. It really makes no difference to me. It really doesn't. Like I haven't run into any issues. It's just I don't know. Like it all looks the same to me now. Only thing different is freaking the forward, the back and forward.
Yeah, it's actually cancer.
Yeah. What is this thing called?
Actually cancer.
//
Yeah.
He said it's cancer. It's cancers. Why Microsoft? Oh well. So, yeah, man, I'm actually excited. Even though I'm not using it, but I am excited for 3.2 version of Django to come out. And mainly because it's the LTS, but also because it's going to be like fully asynchronous. It's coming out in April.
Nice.
And it's going to have I think it's going to have support to like 2023, 2024, something like that.
Yeah, sounds about right.
That's nice.
Let's put some gravy on it.
Alright, so that is running successfully. Let's proceed.
I gotta hop out, man. Gotta get ready for tomorrow.
Yeah, man. Have a good night's rest, and just congratulations on everything, bro. I know you've been working hard, bro.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
All right, take care, bro.
You too. I'll catch you later.
Bye bye.